here with North Star Golden Retrievers. I hope you'll bear with me today. I'm doing my own recording, so I'm going to try to stay in the picture here. I'm here with Cookie, and we're going to give you a brief training demonstration of the training that she's had. We've really loved Cookie. She is a big, beautiful dog with a humongous love for people, and she just loves affection. She's just really a big snuggly dog. And I think you're really going to enjoy that personality in her. She is sensitive, and she takes some time to get to know new places, and that's very typical, especially with adult dogs. They don't transition as well as puppies do. So make sure you give her some time and lots of love, and let her really acclimate and get to know you. I think we've stressed that a lot in the training manual. I just wanted to make a note on that too, where she's an adult dog. Just something to be aware of. So anyway, she's been through a very thorough training program. The training program consists of 4 main parts. There's obedience commands, manners, house training, and leash training. Those are the 4 main components other than the socialization. Most of what we're going to be showing you today are the most demonstratable portions of it, which are our manners and our obedience commands, which she's done really well with. And then we'll touch on house training and leash training as well. So I want to start with manners. Some of the manners that she's been taught are placed on command, but many of them are not. They're simply behaviors that she's been taught. One of the big things that she's been taught is not to ever jump up on me. She's expected to always keep all 4 feet on the ground when she's around me, and make sure that you give her lots of love and attention when she's staying down low. Don't get in the habit of largely ignoring her until she has to jump up to get attention, and then she'll learn to jump. But she's done really well with learning to stay down. Another manner that she has, good girl, is I want her to sit for a greeting. Basically, whenever she approaches me or makes eye contact with me, or basically doesn't know whatever else to do, I want her default behavior to be to sit. To sit automatically without me having to ask for it every single time. That does a couple things for us. Number one, it plants her in one place so she's not moving all around and her attention's everywhere else. And another thing is when her hind end goes down, her eyes come up to you. And the way dogs are designed is wherever their eyes are is where their mind is also. And so if she's looking at you, that's where her attention is. And that's where her focus is, and that's exactly where you want it to be. So we want her to sit for a greeting. This is a really good habit to keep up with. If she forgets to sit automatically, go ahead and ask for it. Cookie, sit. Good girl. Especially when she greets children. It's really important when she greets children. A dog of this size can be very intimidating to children, but it's much less intimidating if the dog is sitting, and especially if the child can control the dog by asking the dog to sit and seeing the dog respond, seeing Cookie respond to that, and then they realize that they do have a measure of control over the situation. It's not nearly as intimidating for them. So that's really powerful and something to remember when you're dealing with children. So that's one of her manners. Another one of her manners is, and this is great with Goldens, they're good at this naturally anyway, but we've really focused on making sure she has a very gentle mouth. So when she's taking food from our hands, we expect her to be very soft and to use her lips and her tongue as opposed to her teeth. And so if she ever forgets that or gets competitive with another dog, or you have something like a T-bone in your hand or something, we just say gently and hold on to whatever's in our hands until she uses her lips and is very gentle taking something from your hands. So that's part of her manners too, is using a gentle mouth. Another one of her manners is for meal times. Let me make sure I'm in the frame here. So don't ever feed her just with letting her run all around. Make sure for meal times you ask for a sit, stay. And what this does, well, it does a lot of things, but one of the things that it does is this is kind of the basis of the training program, is you're replacing physical control with verbal control. You're having her rely on your verbal cues to give her permission to what she is and is not allowed to do. Stay. Stay. No. And if she breaks it, sit. Stay. Just ask her to go back. Stay. Okay. Good girl. Until she has verbal permission from you. Some people kind of feel like this is kind of extreme to have a lot of verbal control over your dog, to have them checking in with you when they eat, when they go through doorways, when they go get their toys, when they do anything. They're always asking for permission from you. But the fact is that dogs naturally have a pack mentality, and they really like to know who's in charge all the time. That gives them a real sense of security. They're kind of built like children in that way, in knowing who's in charge. That helps them feel safe and comfortable. And if they ever doubt who that is, then they kind of get uneasy and they start to feel like maybe they need to take on that role for themselves. So go ahead and be the pack leader. Go ahead and have verbal control over your dog. There's an acronym that I use to help remind me of the things that we can get verbal control with several times a day, every day, without hardly any conscious effort. And that's all good dogs fetch toys. That's AGDFT. And that stands for attention, gates and doorways, food, and toys. Now, keep in mind that you don't need an actual set training session to give these 5 things. These are 5 things that most people naturally give their dog every day anyway. So make sure you're asking for some kind of obedience before you give these things. You know, make sure she's minding her manners, that she's sitting for greeting before you give her the attention. Make sure she's, have a nice long sit stay or a down stay or something before you feed her, before you give her her toy. All these things are very, very motivating to your dog and to Cookie. She's very motivated by toys. She loves toys. And then she's motivated by food. So ask for obedience, and that's really going to contribute to her bond with you, because the more she sees you as a leader and a friend, the more that's going to contribute to her bond with you. And so go ahead and take advantage of that. Good girl. Good girl. So another one of her manners is that she's expected to hold a stay before she's allowed to go through any kind of a doorway or a gateway. So going in and out of the yard, going in and out of the house, coming in and out of a crate. And she is not too fond of her crate. She does sleep quietly through the night, every night, in her crate. So she does sleep in the night through the crate. And she does settle down when we put her in the crate for a couple of hours during the day. So if you need to use the crate with her, she's very tolerable to that. She does that. But she's not overly anxious to go running into her crate on command when you tell her to do that. That's just not her thing, as an adult dog. So, but yeah, there's any kind of a passageway, door or gateway, she's expected to stay, come on, and wait for your verbal release before she's allowed to go through. Stay. And just ask for a stay. Okay. Good girl. Stay. Okay. Good girl. Very good, Cookie. I want to make a point here. You may notice that I use quite a bit of fluctuation in my voice. And dogs really respond, good girl, really respond really well to that. Because that's how they naturally talk to one another. They talk to each other through their inflections, their voice inflections and pitch, more than they do actual words, because they don't use actual words. So that's how they pay attention to us, and they also read each other's body language. So they pay more attention by far to our body language and our voice fluctuation than the actual words that we're saying. So use that to your advantage. You might notice that when I want her to contain herself and control herself, maybe stop movement, I'll use kind of a firm, authoritative tone of voice. I'll say, stay, And then when I want action and I want movement and animation out of her, I'll use a high-pitched tone of voice. Okay, good girl. And that gets her attention. It gets movement out of her. So go ahead and use those voice fluctuations as well. Good girl. That's a good girl, huh? Yeah. Okay, I think that pretty much covers it for the manners portion. Now I'm going to go ahead and go on to the obedience commands. I'm going to show you come, sit, stay, down, down, stay, drop it, watch me, and go to bed. You might also notice too that whenever she follows through with a command or with something I'm asking her to do or expecting her to do, that I say, okay, good girl. And what that is it's a marker. It's something to let her know right in the instant that she did the right thing. Because a lot of times there's a delay, quite a delay, between the correct behavior and the actual reward. You know, the attention, affection, toy, treat, whatever it may be. So if you can mark the second that she does what you want her to do, and it also doubles as a release. Okay is also the word that we use to release her from holding behaviors or stay behaviors, like staying at the doorway, staying on her bed in a down stay. And it lets her know that, okay, she's done, she's finished, she did it correctly, and it's very, very rewarding. So go ahead and use a marker. You can use whichever marker you choose. Some people like to say yes. If you don't have a preference, I would really recommend that you continue to use okay, because that's the marker she knows, and it's very, very rewarding and stimulating to her. Come. There's 3 hand signals that I use. Sit. The first is a sit. It's a little scoop up over the nose, just like that. And if it helps you remember, that's how she was taught to sit, is we would take a reward, a treat of some kind. Yes, but you smell, huh? You want your toy? And we would scoop it up over her nose. And the second that her hind end hit the ground, we would mark it, okay, and that's how we taught her to sit. The next hand signal that she's been taught, let me make sure I'm staying in the frame here, is a stay. It's just a simple stop sign, just like that with your hand. Stay. Dogs are more visual learners than they are audio learners. So they do tend to respond more quickly to the hand signals than they do to the voice commands, but she's very, very familiar with both. She will respond easily to both the hand signal and the voice command. So the third hand signal that she knows is a down, and I'm tucking a treat in my fingers here. I always start with a sit. When I'm doing it down, I start her in a sit, and then I just make my hand flat and I bring it down. I say down. Okay, good girl. And reward her when she's all the way down. Up. Sit. Good girl. Down. Down. Okay. Stay. Stay. Okay, good girl. That's good. She's got nice holding behaviors. It's easier for them to stay longer in a down than it is to stay in a sitting position. They're very comfortable and they're relaxed there. Something I recommend is with her bed, they especially really enjoy doing extended down stays on their bed. It's a very natural place for them to be. So if you have a down time as a family, or as an individual, like when you watch a show at night or you read a book or something that you're just kind of in one place for a little bit, I'd really recommend that you have her bed next to you and have her do extended down stays next to you, and build those up over time so that she can do a solid 1 or 2 hour down stay there in your home with distractions around, and she's just pretty much glued to that bed. What I really recommend is that you have this like a 4 or 5 foot leash attached, just like this, for the first couple weeks, and let her drag it around the house. And what that does is that gives you a tool to give her feedback on what is and is not expected or approved of in your home. Because it's really difficult to give her meaningful feedback if you don't have a leash attached. For example, if she wants to climb up on your couch or your bed or something, a place that she's not allowed, just give her 2 quick firm taps with the leash and tell her no in a firm voice, and then show her where she is allowed to go, like maybe bring her to her bed or get a toy and roll it across the floor another direction, and then reward her for being in the correct spot. So not only do we want to communicate clearly to her what is not acceptable, but you want to quickly follow that by telling her what is, so she's not just left to kind of figure it out. Anyway, another point I wanted to make, I was thinking about this when I was doing the down with the treat tucked into my fingers, is you might notice too that I do use a lot of food rewards, and I do use a lot of treats. And there's a reason for that. Food is a primary reward for a dog. It's one of their 3 primary rewards, and it's the most easy and convenient to have available. But initially when I started training, I really struggled with that, feeling like they were getting treat spoiled, like they would pay attention to me when I had food on me, and they would ignore me when I didn't. But what I found is that if you make obedience worthwhile every single time, as close to 100% as you possibly can, and granted I know we actually live in the real world and it's not possible to have a reward handy every single time, but as much as you possibly can, then you drive her behaviors, her responses to you, into automatic behaviors. It kind of becomes like a muscle memory thing, to where when you give her a command, her body will respond before her mind even has a chance to think about it. And in contrast to that, if you become very inconsistent or very predictable about when you do and do not have a meaningful reward handy, and when I say meaningful reward, just keep in mind it doesn't always have to be food. Sometimes a toy is very motivating to her. Matter of fact, sometimes a toy is more motivating to her than food is. But there has to be a meaningful reward available to her every single time. But if you become inconsistent or very predictable about when you are and are not going to reward, then she does develop that on and off switch with you. And she will learn, like I said, dogs read body language very, very well, a lot better than we read body language. And she will be able to tell right away if you're going to reward or not. And she's going to develop an on and off switch, you know. So make sure that you just make it rewarding every single time as much as possible. Give her the attention, give her the love, keep treats handy. And it can be a little inconvenient for the first little while to always have something handy. What I recommend is that you pouch the house. You put little pouches of treats or rewards, or hang, you know, her toys around the house. So number one, when you see it, it reminds you to ask for obedience. And number two, when she does obey, you have something really handy that you can give her. But it's going to pay big, big dividends for you. That little investment of your time and your thoughtfulness for this first little while is going to pay big, big dividends over the rest of her life for years and years to come. So I'd really recommend that you keep up with that. Anyway, continuing on with the obedience commands where we left off, we did come, we did sit, stay, down, down, stay. I'm going to show you drop it. Ready? Ready? Okay. She loves balls, loves to retrieve, loves toys. Make sure when you do play with her and when you allow children to play with her, that she always releases things into your hand willingly. That she opens her mouth and releases it and you're not tugging it out of her mouth. So go ahead and ask for it. Say, drop it. Drop it. Good girl. Yes. All right. Here, you can have it back. Ready? Good girl. So that she always submits to you. And that doesn't mean you can't allow her to keep her toys sometimes. Like win a game of tug-of-war and trot off with the rope or whatever. She loves to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you're not going to teach her to be a dominant dog by allowing her to win sometimes. It's okay for her to win sometimes. And that actually contributes to her feeling really comfortable and safe with you, like she doesn't have to guard her things because you're going to always take them away from her. Make sure that you always ask for a release and ask for her to actively open her mouth and release that to you. Good girl. You might notice too, I hope it's in the frame, I don't know if it's in the frame or not, that she's very drawn to her bed, and we've actively magnetized her to her bed. Whenever we give her a bone to chew or a toy to play with that she needs to rest and relax with for a little while, we always put her on her bed to do that. And the reason for that is we want her to associate her bed as being her place and feel comfortable and orient herself to that being her place. And so you'll see that naturally, a lot of times when she does have a toy, I don't know if you can see her bed or not, I'm gonna go ahead and toss the toy again. That she'll kind of gravitate towards her bed and want to lie down on her bed. Just like that. Let's see, so where were we? Okay, so our final command, excuse me, is watch me. Watch me! Good girl. Let's see if we can be just a little more snappy about that. Watch me! Okay, good girl. Watch me! Okay, good girl. So watch me is a foundational command. That means it's one of the very first ones that we teach. So she's had literally several hundred, if not a couple thousand repetitions of it by now. And it's because it can literally be a life-saving command. Like if she's headed out into traffic, she's chasing a cat, you drop something on the floor and you just need her attention right now, then you say, watch me, and I try to say it in a very upbeat, chirpy kind of a way to get her attention. And all I'm looking for is her eye contact. I want her to break her attention on whatever she's looking at and look at me. And essentially what you're doing is you're distracting her from her distraction. You remember I talked about before the way dogs are designed, their psyche is they're not like humans who we're capable of carrying on a conversation with one person thinking about something entirely different at the same time. They're not natural multitaskers. Whatever they're looking at, even if it's just for a split second, is where their attention is 100%. And because of that, they do have short attention spans, so they tend to, break their attention very fast. But if you can get their attention right then, very quickly, then you can hurry and follow it up with a come or a toy or something else that's rewarding to them, that'll get them to come back to you. So what I'd really recommend, and this is a good thing that you can do, especially during the first couple weeks when you're working on your bond with one another, is that you practice watch me several times a day, and always have a very meaningful, watch me, okay, have a very meaningful reward handy for her when she follows through, so that time that you absolutely need her to follow through with it, she doesn't hesitate. She doesn't even give it a second thought. Her body responds before her mind has a chance to think about it. Good girl, Cookie. Yes, that's good. Okay. Let's see. So we've gone through manners and we've gone through obedience commands. Now I want to talk a little bit about house training. She's done really, really well with her house training. She is an adult dog, so she's very reliable in the house. Having said that, when she's acclimating to your home, I would really keep an eye on her for the first little while until she knows what she can expect, and that she knows how to communicate with you, and that she learns that she can trust you to respond to her communications to go outside. What she's learned is to touch a bell with her nose that's hanging on the door to let you know that she needs to go outside. And then when she touches that, go ahead and hook a leash onto her collar and take her out, and it really helps if you can pick like a specific area in your yard that becomes her toilet area. That'll really help her. And where she's an adult female dog, they kind of, at this point, they're very particular about where they like to go. They're very private, especially females. They like to go as far away from their living area as possible. So if you can kind of find a far area of the yard to take her to, that'll be natural for her anyway. Take her there on a leash and then tell her good outside. And then when she goes to the bathroom, and completely ignore everything that she does outside. Don't engage her. Don't make eye contact with her. Don't let her sniff and play around and check out the neighbors and whatever else. Just go straight there and ignore everything she does until she goes to the bathroom. And then the second she does that, go ahead and say, "Good outside," and let her go. And let her, engage her, reward her, play with her, whatever else it is that you want to do. That'll help her to realize, as she already does here, that when she goes out for a potty break, going to the bathroom is first time of business. We're not going to sniff around. We're not going to take a half an hour figuring it out. We're not going to play. We just need to go to the bathroom. Now, keep in mind, she's not a puppy. She's an adult. And so adult dogs go far less often than puppies do to the bathroom. And when they do go, they usually do several times in a row. So when she needs to have a bowel movement, she'll go out, she'll have a bowel movement. 2 or 3 minutes later, she'll have another bowel movement. 2 or 3 minutes later, she'll have, 5 or 10 minutes later, she'll have another bowel movement. That's just kind of the way their systems move. But they'll really only need to do that about 2 or 3 times a day. Maybe 3 or 4 times a day. So she knows where her bell is here at this house. She's going to need to relearn where it is at your house. And what I'd recommend doing is, when she's not looking, hang a bell on the doorknob of the door you're going to be using most often to take her out, and rub a little something on there that's going to smell really yummy, that's going to catch her attention, her sensory glands, like peanut butter or a little bit of hot dog, rub it on there, or grease. Now keep in mind, they're able to smell a very, very tiny bit, so you don't need to drench the thing in peanut butter. Just a little bit will catch her attention, and then just stand back and give her, whatever, a half hour, for her to find it on her own and touch it. And when she touches it, she's going to look to you for the reaction. And initially when she touches it, she's not going to be ringing the bell. She's going to be, finding whatever it was she was sniffing out. Like, oh, here's the peanut butter. But your response is going to be critical, so make sure you make a big deal. And I say, "Okay, good outside," and I really emphasize that word outside, so she really associates that with going to the bathroom. And give her a reward and take her on the leash out and do the whole routine. And that's how she's going to learn where the bell is at your house. So anyway, she's done really, really well. She sleeps through the night in a crate without having any accidents or needing potty breaks. So keep in mind too that with acclimation, which acclimation is more difficult for adult dogs than it is for puppies, a really common side effect of that is a loose stool. So keep that in mind. She may need frequent breaks. She may even need a middle of the night break, just because her bowels are really active and she's very stressed, and it's a physical thing, okay? But just remember that that's part of acclimation, and if that occurs, she'll get through that. But that's just something to be aware of. Leash walking. So there's 2 kind of leash walks that we do. Other than the heel, the controlled heel, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So there's short leash walks with this 4 or 5 foot leash, and that's when she needs to get from point A to point B. And I expect her to pay attention to me, to keep a J in the leash, and to be responsive to my verbal commands when she's walking on this kind of a leash. Now Cookie is kind of a unique case, because she has been doing something very different for the last couple of years. She hasn't been doing a whole lot of leash walking, and now she's an adult dog, and she's very, very strong, and she's very, very powerful. So what we really want her to do is to pay attention to us and to be responsive to our verbal commands. So it's a good habit to keep up with. We call it attention walking. When we're walking, we'll do little things to try to keep her attention. We'll change directions, or I'll make noises with my mouth. I'll do something to catch her attention. And every time she looks at me, I respond with a reward quickly. So stock your pockets when you go walking. Keep stuff on you. I'll show you what that means. So you want to be very engaging and very rewarding to her. Where's your toy? Oh, you have it. And when you're on a short leash, I don't let him sniff. I don't let him stop. I don't let him greet anybody else unless she's shedding like mad right now. Unless I give him permission to. Um, and that's the standard for the short leash walk. So I would really recommend that you have separate leashes for a short leash walk, then a pleasure walk. That's a pleasure walk for her, where she is allowed to have some free rein, to sniff, to check out other dogs, other friends, whatever. We usually use like a 10 or 15 foot leash when we do those kinds of walks, or we'll actually go out to where there's no traffic or anything. We'll go up to the foothills and we'll do off-leash walks, and they're expected to come and check into us and touch our fingertips about every 30 seconds to a minute, and they have a certain range that they can't go outside of, and they just learn to come and check in and stock your pockets. Have something handy for her every time she checks in, and then say, okay, release her to go run and play, so that she knows that it's nothing but rewarding to come back to you. If you just let your dog do whatever he wants the entire walk, and then when you call him, you throw him in the truck and go, then he knows that coming to you means it ends all the fun. So that's a really, really fast way, and a really popular way for people to teach their dog to run away from them when they call him to come. So attention walking. There's 2 commands that I use when I'm short leash walking. I say, let's go, when I'm ready to go, and yeah, you're ready, and I'm not going anywhere. And then if they pull, I stop and I say easy. And it's really, really important that when you say easy that you absolutely stop in your tracks and you do not make any forward progress, because dogs actually have a reflex in their chest and in their neck, as opposed to us. Our trachea is very, very sensitive. Theirs is different. That when they feel pressure here, they naturally push against it. So if you keep walking and you keep saying easy, 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 you're just teaching her to push ahead on the leash. So absolutely stop, or turn 180 degrees and go the other direction until she's paying attention to you and keeping that slack in the leash, and then you can keep going. Okay, you ready? Ready? Let's go. Let's go. Okay, good girl. Come on, let's go. Good. Come on. Let's go. Good. Okay. Okay. Okay, good girl. Good. And distractions are huge with leash walking. So if you're struggling with her leash walking, or she's not being responsive to your verbal commands, practice in your kitchen, practice in a small enclosed area, and then take her out in your yard and practice there. A lot of times people dive full bore into going out in the neighborhood or the park to practice their leash walking, and there's distractions everywhere, and you're just setting your dog up for failure. She's been walked out on the street, she's been walked with heavy distractions on the leash, and she's very responsive to our verbal commands. Like I said before, she's very powerful, very strong dog, and she's also very sensitive. So if she gets frightened, or if she's very uncomfortable and she's just very motivated to get out of there for whatever reason, she's going to charge ahead. You've got to provide that security for her, get her comfortable, get her happy. Let's go. Okay, and make it really rewarding. I very often take the dogs for walks out where I can, turn them off leash every once in a while when there's nobody around. And I take balls and things to throw, and it's just so fun for them to just be walking and paying attention, looking up at you all the time, and then all of a sudden here comes this ball out of nowhere that just goes rolling down the street, and they just have a ball chasing it and picking it up. So make it very, very rewarding. If you're more rewarding and stimulating than everything around them, then you're going to have a very easy time walking her, and it's going to go really well. But you really got to take that time to establish that bond between you and her. And on that note, just keep in mind that her emotional security is the foundation for her obedience. The reason she's responding to me and listening to me right now is because of the relationship she has with me. She trusts me, she knows what to expect from me, and she trusts that I'm going to reward her for obedience. So you've got to lay that foundation with her before you ask for a lot of obedience. Because if you're expecting her to follow through with commands and to be very obedient, and she doesn't have a foundation of trust, and she doesn't have emotional security, she's uneasy, she's insecure, she's stressed, the training's going to absolutely fall apart. She's not going to follow through. That emotional security has to be in place with you, and you will become her security in order for her to follow through with obedience, and that's really important. So just keep that in mind when you're working with her. Good girl. Anyway, so those are the two kinds of leash walks, and then there's also a heel. And a heel, you know, with the short leash walk, I'm not really concerned whether she's on my left side or my right side. I kind of let him oscillate back and forth. I just want him to be responsive to my verbal commands. I want him to pay attention to me. I want him to be looking up, making eye contact, checking in, and maintaining the slack in the leash. With the heel, it's a little bit different. I want her absolute control and attention with heeling. And with heeling, I want her on facing the direction I'm facing. Sit. On my left side, and we heel for short periods of time. And these are to get you past very intense distractions like another dog or something. And always place yourself between her and the distraction, and always bait her with something, especially for the first little while. You're not going to have to do that forever, but it's really going to help for you to have something right there. You want that toy, don't you? Come on. Okay, sit. Yeah, come on. Good, sit. Yeah. Sit. Sit. Come on. Okay, good girl. Yeah. Sit. Sit. Yeah. Good. Sit. Okay, good girl. So you can see that it's very short, active spurts, so she always has something to do, always has something to focus on. Step, 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 sit. Step, 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 sit. We're healing. I'm focusing on you, so that you keep her from putting her attention on anything else. So we've covered the 4 areas of the training program. We've talked about manners. We've talked about obedience commands, house training, leash training. We've talked a little bit about what to expect with an adult dog, and with Cookie in particular. She, like I said, she's done really, really well. She's been a lot of fun. She's got a great personality. She's just kind of a big teddy bear, and I think you're going to love her. Thanks.